The fox doesn't look at you the way a fox is supposed to look at you. It comes trotting up a dirt road in Russia with this strange, earnest urgency. And when it gets close, you see why. There's a glass jar jammed all the way down over its head, sealed tight. It can't see, it can't eat, it can't drink. And it is walking straight at two grown men. The one kind of creature its entire evolution has been screaming at it to run from, because apparently that was the least terrible option it had left. The men grab the jar, twist. It takes 2 tries. And the second it comes free, the fox bolts into the trees so fast, it's like the whole thing never happened. Like it was embarrassed. And that's the part that stays with you. Not the jar, not even the fox, the decision. The single moment that animal did the math and came up with one answer: humans. Because from where that fox was standing, we are not the rescue. We are the monster at the end of the story. And still, in the worst moment of its life, it walked toward us. Why? That's the whole question. And the answer is stranger and more beautiful and frankly more uncomfortable than you'd think. But to get there, you first have to understand what we actually are. So let's start with how terrifying we really are. You walk into a forest. You're not hunting anything. You're just there, slightly sweaty, maybe halfway through a granola bar. And the forest goes silent. Birds peel off the branches. A deer freezes, stares at you with eyes the size of dinner plates, and leaves like it just got very bad news. A squirrel runs 3 steps, stops, runs 3 more, short-circuiting, having a full existential crisis over the fact that you exist. You did that just by showing up. And here's the thing, that reaction is correct. In 2015, Chris Darrimont and colleagues put a number on us in the journal Science. We kill large carnivores, bears, wolves, lions, at 9 times the rate those animals kill each other. A normal predator takes about 1% of the adult prey around it each year. We take around 14. We are not an apex predator. We are a category of predator this planet had never seen before. In 2023, researchers set up speakers at waterholes in Greater Kruger National Park and played lions roaring, the sounds of a hunt, and humans just talking at conversational volume. 19 species came through: rhinos, giraffes, elephants, leopards, zebras. They were twice as likely to bolt from the sound of people chatting than from a lion actively hunting. 95% of them were more frightened of our small talk than of the apex predator of Africa. And it isn't just them. Mountain lions in California fled in 83% of trials when they heard human voices, and exactly once when they heard frogs. Across dozens of species on 6 continents, animals have quietly shifted their lives toward the night, just to be awake in the hours we are not. We broke the algorithm. The one trick that keeps prey alive, learn the predator, learn its patterns, stay out of its way, does not work on us. Because we hunt every continent, every season, every hour, with no pattern anything can learn. We don't fit inside the category marked danger. We are the category. Every instinct a wild animal has, written across millions of years, says one thing: never approach a human. And then a dolphin swam straight up to Keller Laros. Just after midnight, January 11th, 2013, on a night dive off Kona, Hawaii. Black water, a few flashlights. A wild bottlenose dolphin comes in out of the dark and keeps circling back to one diver in particular, Laros, then rolls over, slowly, and presents its side. There's a fishing hook buried in its pectoral fin and 40 feet of line wound around its body, and it just holds there. For 8 minutes, it stays almost perfectly still, while a stranger it has never met cuts away the line and works the hook free. Then it disappears into the dark. The whole thing is on video. 20 million people have watched it. Now, was the dolphin smart enough to know this man could help it? Honestly, we can't say. You cannot interview a dolphin. What we can say is that an animal with every reason to flee chose instead to come close, to stay, and to show a human exactly where it hurt. Whatever was happening inside its head, the choice was real. And it is not alone. Not even close. A young wild raven turns up in a backyard in Nova Scotia with 4 porcupine quills driven into its face and sits still on a stranger's hand while she pulls them out one at a time, protesting but never leaving. 2 Two deer, 4 miles out in the freezing water off Alaska, swim toward a wildlife patrol boat the instant its engines cut, press against the hull, and climb aboard. A whale shark off Hawaii, a creature that normally vanishes the second you touch it, hangs motionless while a freediver goes down again and again, 50, 60 feet, to saw a rope off its body. Whale sharks do not do that. Stop and feel the shape of that list. A fox, a dolphin, a raven, two deer, a whale shark. Animals separated by tens of millions of years of evolution in completely different worlds with completely different brains, every one of them independently arriving at the same impossible decision: walk toward the human. So how does a brain that was built to run just stop running? 3 honest answers, and they probably aren't mutually exclusive. The first is the simplest: learned association. That fox was a cub. Its fear may never have fully hardened. The raven was a fledgling that might have grown up near people. For them, approaching a human isn't overriding a lifetime of terror. It's working around a terror that was never fully installed. The second is stranger, something that looks, from the outside, uncomfortably like a theory of mind, the ability to model another creature as having its own intentions. In 2002, Brian Hare showed in Science that dogs, and only dogs, not wolves, not even chimpanzees, will follow a human pointing finger to hidden food. Untrained puppies pass that test. Hand-raised wolves fail it. Becoming our companions wired dogs to read our minds. A dolphin is not a dog, but once one species crossed that line, you have to wonder whether some individuals of other species stumble into something like it, which is the third answer and probably the most honest: the desperation override. When death stops being a risk and becomes a certainty, the equation flips. If you are a fox with a jar sealed over your head, the odds you die from the jar climb toward 100%, and the odds you die from the men on the road are lower, so you pick the smaller doom. That isn't trust, that's arithmetic. Every instinct still screams no, and then the math quietly overrules it. We can't know which answer is right for any single animal, but it keeps happening across creatures that share almost nothing, and that tells you something real is going on underneath. And then there's the one case where we don't have to guess at all. In the Nyassa Reserve in Mozambique, the Yao honey hunters have a special call, a rolled brrr, snapped off with a sharp a sound that exists nowhere else in nature. They use it to summon a wild bird, the Greater Honeyguide. The bird knows where the bees' nests are hidden and can't break in. The humans have fire and tools and can't find the nests, so the bird leads, the people follow. The people crack the hive, the humans take the honey, the bird gets the wax. In 2016, Claire Spottiswoode ran the controlled experiment and published it in Science. That one call raised the odds of being led to a nest from 33% to 66%, and the odds of finding honey from 17 to 54. The bird was waiting for the right word from us before it would commit. Think about what that is. A wild, free bird, never trained, never tamed, that evolved a real two-way conversation with human beings, for the benefit of both, over thousands of years. It is the only scientifically confirmed case on Earth of a wild animal answering a human-specific signal to start working together on purpose. And once you know the Honeyguide is real, every other story on that list stops sounding like a fairy tale. If one wild species genuinely talks to us, the idea that a dolphin or a fox might have its own reason to reach for us gets a lot less far-fetched. But why us? Of all the things in the world, why would the single most dangerous animal alive ever become the one you turn to? Part of the answer is how terrifyingly precise animal memory is. In a 2014 study at Amboseli, elephants could tell apart the voices of Maasai men, who sometimes hunt them with spears, from Kamba farmers, who mostly don't. By voice alone, they read ethnicity, gender, even age, and adjusted their fear to match. The same machinery that knows exactly which humans to fear also knows which humans not to. The elephants in Kenya who walked toward a rescue center with poison arrows still in their sides weren't running on faith. That center had worked their area for years, and those elephants, or their relatives, had seen what happened there. Not abstract trust in humanity, specific information about specific people in a specific place. Crows prove it from the other direction. When John Marsloff's team trapped wild crows while wearing one particular mask, those crows mobbed that mask on site for the next 2.5 years. And their chicks, who'd never been trapped, learned to mob it too. The grudge was taught. It was cultural. Animals aren't flipping an on-off switch labeled human. They're running a constantly updating, socially shared risk assessment. And once in a while, it lands on one answer. This one. This human, right here, is worth the approach. Because fear was never the factory setting. Darwin saw it in the Galapagos in 1835. Birds so unbothered he could knock them off a branch with the barrel of his gun. Animals that evolve with no predators never build the alarm at all. The dodo, which Dutch sailors could walk up to and club, wasn't stupid. It was tuned to a world that had never produced anything like us. About 65 years after we arrived, it was gone. But the dial turns both ways. Wild gorillas in Uganda need years of patient, daily, non-threatening presence before a family will let people near. Trust built grain by grain against a completely reasonable suspicion. And here's the strangest data point of all. In the entire record, no wild orca has ever killed a human. Not one. The apex predator of the ocean, an animal that hunts great white sharks for a living, looked at us and apparently decided we weren't worth it. Call it restraint, or call it the deepest compliment anything has ever paid us. Which brings us back to the fox. Think about what that moment cost it. Every instinct it owns, every reflex carved by millions of years of being hunted, pointing the other way, and it came anyway. Not because it trusted us, not because it had worked out some theory of human kindness, because it was out of options. We were there, and something, learned, calculated, or just desperate, tilted the odds far enough. And the fear is accurate. Animals are right to be afraid of us. Every wild mammal left on Earth now adds up to about 4% of all the mammal weight on the planet. We and our livestock are the other 96. The fear is not paranoia. The fear is simply true. And yet, we are also the only predator alive that can lift a hook out of a fin, twist a jar off a fox, cut a rope from a whale shark, carry a wounded elephant to the one place its wounds will be treated. The same intelligence that made us the most frightening thing that has ever lived is the only thing that can also make us the rescuer. Both have always been true at once. And the animals that walk toward us seem somehow to feel both at the same time. When a wild creature, in the worst moment of its life, moves toward a human, it isn't forgiving us. It's calculating, live, that this specific danger beats that specific death, carving one exception out of the most important rule it has ever known. And that exception should stop us cold. Because here is what the fox leaves you with after it disappears into the trees. It doesn't know us. It just knew we were there. It made its bet. And the question that doesn't go away isn't whether these animals are clever enough to reach for us. It's whether we're worth it when they do. We are the monster in this story. We have always been the monster. But a fox once came up a dirt road with a jar stuck on its head against everything it knew, just to find out if that was all we were. The answer isn't written yet, and it's ours to write.